Make sure to check the audio, dude. Once we actually go live, just make sure we're broadcasting. Make sure to check the audio, dude. Okay.
Okay. Let me check the audio, folks. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba. All right. Radio check. Radio check. Can you hear me? Can I hear myself? I think we're good, folks.
Yeah, I can hear you, brother.
Okay, cool. All right, gang. I'm Steve, and this is Paul, and this is also the Deployed from Detroit School of Leadership and Madness, where we do our best to tell you just what it's like to embrace the suck. So tonight's episode is crazy, as per usual, but it comes from current chaos, and so that's why we're currently doing it in the middle of fucking night. But lead on, Paul. Maybe give us a little bit of a head start as to what we're talking about here.
Yeah, so part of the reason why Steve and I started to do this is because veterans who are getting out, folks who are still in, like, we have issues with stuff, and we just really suck at getting help. So
Yeah.
I think part of the thing that we were trying to do here is help people get themselves help, but we're also helping ourselves, or trying to anyway. But we came across a situation. I don't even want to call it a situation. Um, we are in the middle. I don't know what to call it, Steve.
In a bit of a pickle.
Yeah, we're in a bit of a pickle because we have someone who we came in contact with, and
And he coughed on us and we're sick.
they're
I'm just kidding.
they're really on the struggle.
Yeah. And, I mean, to cut to the back of the book, let's put it at this. Veteran, former Army, currently struggling with addiction, trying to get help, but almost certain that there isn't help, maybe, or that they can't access the help, or... I mean, the thing that we're ultimately looking at is, like, the question is, okay, you already know you're sick. You already know there's something wrong. You already know you need help. Now what? And we've already gone through and explained, like, call this number, call that number, visit this person, visit that person. And you still get the question of, like, how do I do it? And so it seems like we had to rephrase the question. And so the question isn't, how do I get help? The question is, how do I escape the cycle of suffering that I'm in? How do I escape this hell that I've found myself the resident of? Because that's probably the better question, and sure shit the hardest question. And I made the joke with Paul earlier, and that's why it's in the description there, like, this is such a difficult question, they had to invent Buddhism. How do you escape the thing that you can't escape? Well, we can steal from Buddhism pretty quick and say you sure can escape because it doesn't even exist. And maybe that's something we can toy with first. The thing that's holding you down isn't real. And the only thing that gives it reality is like your own energy. The effort you put into maintaining that reality is the only thing holding that shit together sometimes.
It's all said, man. Um, yeah, and to tie it in, now I've taken time to sit down with this gentleman, and we got to talking, and that sounds exactly like what he's going through. Is this, you know, it's almost like a holding cell because you get yourself in a spot before you even know you need help.
Mm-hmm.
You're already putting yourself in this cage.
It's like quicksand. You're knee
Yeah,
deep, and then you're like, oh, fuck, this is quicksand. And knee deep is too late to figure that out sometimes.
right. And then, you don't really know what the way out is.
Jesus.
So now he's in a
Aggravating stuff.
predicament where, now you need help, but, you're not sure, like, how much you want to invest in it and is it going to work? And is it, I don't know. This is a hard time, and I think you and I have been through this time ourselves. So I think it's worth discussing.
Yeah. And so I think, like, something to get across almost immediately would be the idea that you're already strong enough. So you don't need to kick yourself in the ass for not being strong enough. You don't need to try and make yourself stronger. You don't have to become a new creature to break out of these things. Um, so that's good. You already have it in you. It's what it becomes is a matter of. It's so difficult because like I've been through this and the way I got through it was at a piece at a time, like accidentally, chunk by chunk. I was out of the service, and then I was hanging out with a buddy, and we were both on about as much Vicodin as you could put in a human body, both by prescription at first, and then, well, one thing leads to another, and I'm sitting there on the couch with my buddy, and he informs me that we are heroin addicts. And I was like, huh? Hang on. I thought we were just doing these pills here. And he's like, yeah, no, these are the pills the heroin addicts like, bro. We're basically heroin addicts. And then he kind of like laid it out to me, and I was like, oh, fuck. Uh, and so I think you've already probably had that if you're in this of like, how do I escape? Because you know you have to escape. So that was my moment probably of saying, oh, shit, I need to get out of here. Um, but it wasn't anything I could do immediately. Like it all had to be taken in the amount of time it needed, so to speak. I mean, there is urgency if your health is on the line, but what's most critical to understand is that you're fucked up, you're sick, you're not operating at 100%. You may not be operating at 40%. And so if you're expecting 100% results and then kicking yourself in the ass for not getting those 100% results, that cycle continues. Because I'm a piece of shit. I couldn't do one day without doing this shit. All right, try 10 minutes then, bud. Like, you have to take it in a. There's an old saying, like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And this is that same process. Like, you're not going to do it all at once. And, you have the phone numbers and you have the locations and, you can call this guy or get a hold of that person or you have all of those. And that's overwhelming as shit because what order do I do it in? Do I call this person first? Are they going to be a jerk? Are they going to make me stop partying? Am I going to be less intriguing? Am I going to be less funny? Am I going to be... It's a lot. And so just do one thing. And you don't even have to plan it out. Pick a random thing. You've already been handed a heap of cards. Just deal yourself a random card and go for that. Take over on this one, man, because you see where I'm headed, and I'm starting to slip and slide a little.
No, I think what you're saying is it's a step at a time. Um, And I think what's important to remember here is, you know, I really see addiction as okay, that's a symptom of sickness. Usually it's the byproduct of, something is wrong.
Right. Addiction is a
Um,
coping mechanism.
right.
Addiction
And
is a blankie. It is, ice cream after a breakup. Addiction is all of those things. I mean, that's why people love heroin, because heroin feels like everything you ever loved all at once. Like, I'm not saying do it because you'll be fucked, but like that's why people are so enticed by it, because like even when I was on fistfuls of Vicodin at a time, it was not addressing my pain. I was not in any less pain. I just didn't care that I was in pain. And that's the secret to opiates, is you just don't give a fuck anymore. And that's one of the, I mean, especially too, if you're fighting opiates, that's part of the difficulty, is you're fighting built-in depression. You're fighting built-in pessimism. There's all kinds of shit built into the opiate delivery, the reason you take opiates in the fucking first place. Because the thing is, like, you take pain medicine for pain, and you know that the minute you stop taking it, those things you don't want to hurt are going to hurt again. And it could be your shoulder or it could be your heart. But
mhm.
something's going to hurt. And, like, ultimately, that's why you're not going. Because you know the band aid you're ripping off, there's a lot of blood behind it. And, like, that's the, and yes, it's fucking terrifying. And it should be, because it's scary. But it shouldn't stop you. Especially you young, brave men and women who fucking have seen way worse than the inside of a mental hospital. I'll tell you. You've had worse food, you've had worse roommates, you've had worse everything than what's in front of you. So I know you can handle this. And I know it's fucking terrifying. But just like you got through boot camp, you can handle this shit too. It requires the same guts, the same muscles, the same shit you've already got built in you. It's just a matter of repurposing them for your own end rather than someone else's.
Yeah, and I think the situation comes with a lot of different things, because I see, different side of this too, in the fact that I wouldn't call it like super close or anything, but I've got close to him and his girlfriend, who's been, amazing through this whole thing. But I think one thing to remember while we're talking about all of this is, how do you deal with someone who is not ready to go get help and is currently in the shit,
Right.
uh, that you don't want to see them in, but they're currently in that, and we all know they have to find their way out. There's nothing you can do.
Right.
It has to be them, they get their way out. And part of the, one thing that you can do is, and it's so hard to do, and I commend her for, being as strong as she has. Um, even as this is like going on, uh, maintaining that positive relationship to make sure that the person that is in need knows that someone is going to be there, even if they are being a shithead.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you tell somebody you're part of their support structure, you gotta be there, because that's and it sucks. And thank all of you who stay on our little support structure, because it demolishes trust the minute, we reach out for help and then the people who said they'd be there aren't there. Like, there's a lot of people I never talk to and I don't plan on talking to ever again, because, they said just that. I'll be, hey, just call me, man. I called. I didn't hear shit. So, adios, amigo. And that is regrettable. And maybe I should be more mature or something. But on the other hand, that's a lot of energy I don't feel like expending. So there is that. But I mean, environment is so fucking critical because, imagine. Well, I mean, you don't even have to imagine. Just think about it. Like, everything you need to do most of your daily shit is in your house. If you want to take a shower, you can hop in the shower, soap off, do your thing. You got a towel, you got this, that, and the other thing. Now, let me take you in the woods and then say shower. And we've done this before all the time. We do it every year, in fact. We take a bunch of It's more complicated than I'm explaining it, but at one point, a bunch of strangers are introduced to just the forest and told to clean themselves. And a lot of people lose their fucking mind and just don't bathe whatsoever. Some people go whole hog and, they're just taking baths for the rest of their life now. But what's crucial to that learning experience there is them not having the running water and the soap and the towel and all the things they knew. Like, and as mundane as that is, it's the same for drugs and mental health and all this. And so we talked last episode about Paul's workplace was consistently, harassing and essentially very counterproductive to the process of recovery. And so just essentially inhibiting recovery to the point that, it just ended up how it did. And so that was just by going to work. And all of a sudden, that couple hours a day turned into something and had the ability to provide a lot of things, emotions, energies, fuels. And so maybe, I'm guessing, people who do drugs have drug buddies. And so maybe Knucklehead needs to quit hanging out with his drug buddies. Because that's how you do drugs. Like, the reason... So, my best buddy, in the craziest way possible, like the way Gilligan was Skipper's best buddy, but, I mean, also he was a brother in a lot of things, but Jeremy Harper was a Lance Corporal in the United States Marine Corps, and he fell out of a helicopter from like 70 feet and hit his dome, cracked that thing open, organs burst like water balloons. The medic opened his ribs and hand pumped his fucking heart back to life. Then they just patched his shit back together, sent him to Hawaii, and he woke up 2 weeks later addicted to opiates. Because the entire time he was unconscious, he had fentanyl going through his body. Because
Oh, Jesus.
if he woke up, he might die from just the fucking pain. He broke everything. He burst everything. He had to have chunks of his brain amputated because of how much bleeding was going on. It was fucking preposterous that this boy survived. And then he came home on it. And I was naive and I was dumb and I was a lot of things and I was a kid, and I'll give myself that much excuse or whatever. But I wanted to take care of Jeremy, and also when I got injured, Jeremy wanted to take care of me, and I was not in the right mindset to not take his advice, I guess. But I mean, that's how I ended up on that path of, he and I side by side on the couch, popping a Vicodin and just watching whatever's on. Until like 5 years passed, and then we're like, what the fuck is going on here?
Mm-hmm.
And Jeremy and I were drug buddies. And there was a point just before Jeremy died, a year before Jeremy died, where I stopped seeing him altogether. And I didn't leave him without a support structure. I knew he had his family, and I knew he had just found a new church, and he was heading in the right direction still. But anytime he hung out with me, he'd steal all my pills and sell them, and then he'd come back to me at the end of the month when he knew I'd be out of pills with replacement pills. It was a whole fucking thing. And then I just stopped. And I realized as much as I loved him, we were going to kill each other because that's what drug buddies do. It's a suicide pact. It's the slowest suicide pact out there, but that's what being a drug buddy is. You and I are going to sit on this couch and fucking die together. And that is the relationship. We both agree that misery is where we stand and escape is what we both like. Everything we could agree on everything in that moment, but ultimately we agreed that this is where we die. And he kept up with that, and I let it go. And then that's when I stopped talking to him. And I didn't write him off. I still checked up on him, but like I just couldn't hang out with him. Because any progress he made, the minute we hung out again, it would be destroyed. Because that's how it always was, too. He'd make some kind of progress, we'd hang out, and then he'd find some fucking excuse to do something, and then whatever. And I'd try to help him out, and, like, it just never worked out. Like, it always ended up that way. And so, I mean, you may love them, they may be helping you, they may be hooking you up, they may be doing whatever they're doing, but they're also just sitting in a room dying with you, bud. So you gotta ditch your drug buddies. That's a thing. And it may...
Yeah, I think
Go for it.
I think in the purest form of what we're talking about here is okay, so we have there's all sorts of functions that where people drink too much. So, like
Every time there's more than 4 of my family member in a room.
right, or fraternities or, the military in general. I think what the main, like, what we're talking about here is when you get to a spot where stuff is getting dangerous, either your health is bad, your family is starting to fall apart, work
Employment.
is, down the drain, or your life is just shit.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Or if you're on
but that's what
Vicodin,
we're
you haven't shit. Because that's a real problem.
right, right. And
That's...
I think what this is about is getting when you're in that spot.
Right.
Uh, not easy to make it out of that spot. Um,
No.
because that's when everything starts to like tie in. Because everything is falling to shit. So it that puts you in that headspace, and then you got an addiction or some sort of dependency that you're leaning on, and that's not going good because every time you do that, like more problems are starting to pile up,
Mm-hmm.
and people are leaving your side, and everything's like crazy,
Yeah.
and as you're losing these pieces, it seems like, well, what piece can I grab to get a
Right.
leg up to where I can start making some progress? Because everything's leaving constantly. So you're really in a spiral. It's a black spiral. Like
Right.
it's
And
terrible.
it's much like a house fire, I would say too, in that the impulses, grab the photos, grab the PlayStation, grab the silverware, get the cat, make sure the bird's out. And now you're dead. Just get the fuck out, man. Like, and it's easier said than done. Easier said than done. But that's why you have fight or flight in there too, so that when you need help, you can flee. And so, like, you do have that escape, because that's got to be in there too. That deep, like, get me the fuck out of here, because that's half the reason you do any kind of fucked up drugs in the first place. Is you're like, adios. But what's the better point to that? Because you do
No,
need to
just
microdose this. Like, you can't expect that this is all going to happen tonight. I mean, you could do a lot of shit tonight, for sure. But don't expect to be rid of all that hurts you tonight or today. Like, understand that it's going to take time. And, and it doesn't have to be in order. You don't have to, there isn't a specific way really. There are things that you need to change. You need to change your environment. You need to change how you think about yourself and how you feel about yourself. But like, it's kind of it. And how you do that is really up to you. That's the flavor. That's the uniqueness of your own personal creativity. How you find that, And I can understand not seeing a future. Fuck, where am I going to get a job? There's the middle of a pandemic. I doubt anyone's hiring, especially since most people are going to be doing the opposite of hiring very soon. Oh my goodness. Like, it's very easy to get agitated and worked up. But I mean, so like, here's a ridiculous thing that I've done. I invented futures for myself. Like, not too crazy, but I didn't think about what I want to do, like how I want to get better. I didn't think about like how am I going to fix my PTSD? How am I going to fix this? I started with like I'm going to write a play. And then it turned into I'm going to write a book. And then that book turned into a cartoon and a lecture series. And then that lecture series turned into a class, and that turned into this podcast. And then that book is turning into a screenplay for like a cartoon currently, not being published, but I'm still working that thread. But while I was writing that, I came up for the idea for the deployment center that we're doing right now. Like, these things are coming true just because I put them in front of myself. And let's not ascribe any magic to this. But they wouldn't have come true had I not put them in front of myself. So let's at least say that. So what you can start to do is put a goal out there of not, I want to get off this, or I want to stop feeling sad. I want to not be depressed anymore. I want to blah, 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 blah. Come up with something unfucking related. I want to paint pictures of dogs fighting cats. Go for it. Oil or watercolor, man. What are we up to?
Mm-hmm.
And what's intriguing about that is as you pick up the things, one, there's the natural motivation because you're doing something you enjoy now. You're moving away from suffering and you're moving towards joy. And so now you're developing skills in joy. And now you're realizing like, hey, I wish my hands didn't shake so fucking much while I'm trying to paint. Maybe I shouldn't be doing so much speed before I paint. All right, cool.
Right.
Like the unrelated become related. Like when you have something true to focus on, and you do have these things. You have hobbies and joys and loves, and you can turn those into careers eventually. And like that's how this game works. But like none of those things are going to happen until you start putting them in front of you anyway. As it's not happening tomorrow. But this is and it's, don't put a finish date on it. Don't say I'm going to write a screenplay by this year or I'm going to build a deck tomorrow. Just say, it'd be pretty cool if I learned how to cook pastries. That'd be fucking cool.
Mm-hmm.
Just do that. And oddly enough, the distraction helps. The new interest helps. Your addiction, ask anyone who used to do heroin who now works out. You'll find them because they're the most cut motherfucker in the gym. Because people transfer addictions. That's another thing you can do. Because you do need to cope with the fact that your life kind of sucks in certain parts. That's why you're doing drugs and drinking and having terrible thoughts and like shitty things have happened to you and you need to cope with that. And so it's also about learning to cope with it differently. So I paint Warhammer models. I when I was a little kid, I used to go past the Warhammer store all the time, and I'd see the models, and they just blew my fucking mind. Because when at Christmas time, and so this is like layers and layers of, and you'll understand this, way back at Christmas time, my mom would get these porcelain white houses, and then we'd paint them with acrylic paint, and then put them under the Christmas tree. And then gradually, I got pretty good at doing like dry brushing and weathering effects, and it looked neat. And then we were at the mall, and I saw the Game Workshop store and the miniatures, and I was like, oh, like model airplanes are fine, but it's usually silver or gray, and like who gives a fuck after that? But these little
Hmm.
guys, there's all kinds of detail and so when I was getting off heroin, I spent my heroin money on Warhammer models. And fuck me, I have a ton of Warhammer models right now. But that helped me develop other skills. That helped me realize what skills I had forgotten along the way. Because drugs and mental illness and like all these things we use to get by in life give us tons of neat little shortcuts that allow us to skip huge chunks of our day. And you kind of have to relearn some of that or learn better versions or new versions. And like you find that doing the other thing, and recognize this too that they're on the same path. So you're not diverging your goals because you being this better artist or builder or father or mother or whatever the thing in the best of humans, whatever it is for you to become best of humans involves you being the best of humans, which involves you being off of that shit and feeling great about yourself. So know that
Hmm.
like those paths are the fucking same thing. So you don't have to worry about, oh, I got off course. Like you're always heading in that direction. You can remember that.
Right. I think, and I think we should probably go back and kind of paint a little picture of exactly what exactly happened, and then, you know, what I see as far as like the next steps. So,
We're getting to the
this
dear
young
Abby
gentleman
portion.
joined the military. Like Steve said, he was in the army. Um, you know, found his calling in the military, wanted to be there, gung ho.
Hoorah.
Uh, he's young. He made some stupid decisions, and ended up getting, you know, he ended up getting booted with an other honorable discharge. So pretty much just sent out to the street. It happens often when kids make mistakes in the military. They're sent. They're sent packing, and they go home. Now, when you get home, that's when stuff really starts getting crazy because you still want to be in the service. You didn't fulfill that part of your life, so now there's a void. And how do you fill that void when you're home? And then what happens when you're putting effort toward filling that void, but it's just never getting there, and you know, you're not getting that fulfillment out of your life. And now stuff is starting to fall apart because your priorities are stuck in trying to make right something in your life that didn't go the way that you wanted it to go.
It
And
almost sounds like somewhat spiritually starved in a way. Like you can eat cornstarch all day and it'll fill you up, but at no point are you receiving nutrition. And then so like this carousel that he's on is that same sort of thing of just a diet of cornstarch, just no spiritual nutrition, like nothing is making him feel like when somebody called him private or corporal or special, whatever they called him, like it. Because I very early had a similar thing where I didn't care to be called Steve because I never, like I said before, I was kind of always gonna be in the military and was a cadet since I was 12, and everybody called me by my last name, and it was always my rank and my last name. So it was always Sergeant Saley or Cadet Saley or whatever the fuck. And at no point did I ever have any idea of what a Steve was, let alone like how the fuck they're supposed to act or what they're supposed to do or this. And now all of a sudden I couldn't be Sergeant Saley and nobody gave a shit about Sergeant Saley. And most people can't pronounce my last name right anyway. So it's back to fucking Steve. And
yeah, and what's your purpose? You know what I mean?
yeah, right. And what is the purpose of a Steve? Well, I mean, you got Steve McQueen and Steve Gutenberg, so it's a big fucking stretch, man. You know,
Right. And
Steven
out
Seagal.
of every living thing, it comes down to one, the one thing every living thing needs is purpose.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be a purpose, otherwise, why exist in the first place? So, I think what the gentleman that kind of inspired this is going through is finding purpose and finding something makes him as happy as whatever that experience give him. And that is a painful thing. It is a
Right.
painful thing to go through.
Well, and the thing is, I found this accidentally, is that you find parallel purposes. And again, just like those parallel paths, like you join the military to take care of the people you love. So ultimately, you'd like to take care of the people you love, and you just can't do it that way. So now you got to do it a different way. Or you join the military to get ass. I don't think that's it. But go get ass. Go become a porn star or whatever. But like, think about your true motivations as to why you signed and why you stayed, and why it upset you that you couldn't stay, and just pull out that vein and see what it looks like on its own, because that's why Deployed from Detroit happened. Because this shit still needs to happen. We still feel like we have a duty to, I think Paul and I can both agree that an oath is an oath is an oath. And that's just kind of how we feel. And things change around it, but like, I'm still there for you guys. And like, it was just a matter of determining how I do that. And so I came up with this business idea. Like, we're going to have a podcast, and then we're going to have a community center. And then the community center is going to have training, and then it's going to do public service. And we're going to just fucking take care of everybody, because that's all I want to do, is just take care of everybody. And as ridiculous as that is, I'm fucking doing it. And that's a thing to consider. Like, as ridiculous as the thing you want to do is, do it anyway.
Okay, so to an extent,
Well, depending. Yeah.
yeah,
Let's,
go crazy. But
let's
I
not
think one
just
thing
on
to
a whim
remember,
try something crazy.
like one thing to remember is, Steve and I have had our warrior days, um, and whatever. Even if you didn't deploy, so what?
You were still bled in.
Right, and the thing is you're back home, and that's not us anymore. If the world calls for us to, go back into action, then that's what it comes to. But
And it's
for
also
now,
way worse situation. Like, if they're calling us to go back, it's the goddamn apocalypse.
right,
So,
and what
like,
I'm saying is like we're finding ways to help and be there for our brothers still, and that's what we're doing here. But I think that's what you need to find as well. And I'm saying you as in the young gentleman that we're referring to. I think he needs to find a purpose, here at home where we're not out, chasing bad guys anymore.
right.
Uh, we're trying to help in different ways, and I don't know, maybe that's not the right answer for everybody, but it's worth
It's worth
a
looking.
shot thinking about.
And it's also something you can for sure do. Like, you
Mhm.
could say, oh, I want to get on American Idol. Or you could say, I want to impact the lives of my community. It's way easier to impact the lives of your community than get on American Idol or whatever the fuck. Like, you can have a huge impact on your community still, but you've got to get your shit together. You've got to, a paramedic with a bum leg is not helping anybody. You need to help yourself before you can help others. And that's the critical thing. And then, more amazingly, too, is that in the process of helping yourself, you'll be instructed by therapists and people in group therapy and all kinds of interesting people We're going to give you the tools you need later on to help other people. So, in the process of getting yourself the help you need, you will start to be given the tools you want to help those around you. And that just comes
Yeah.
with the territory.
Yep. So, uh, okay. So one thing that was said to me along the way when I was going to get my help, and man, do I know how hard a journey that is. Finding your way out of this dark spot that is so taxing on not only you but everyone around you. But I had a commander in the Navy. She was sitting in a room with me, and I had said my story, and I looked like a straight up piece of shit. Like, I mean, I just looked wrecked. Like life had beat the shit out of my face. Um, and I'm telling my story, and I'm looking ragged as shit. And all these doctors are looking at me, and I'm sure they're judging the shit out of me, but um, I'm like pissed because life is just falling apart. So I'm like, all this shit is just fucked, and I don't know how to fix anything, and blah blah blah, and my frustration's like coming out. And she said, "Alcohol's a problem," and I said, "Fuck you, no, it's not." And she was like, "Yes, it is. It's the most immediate problem. Yes, it may not be the end all be all problem." She said that while you're on alcohol, you can't fix anything else.
Right.
So, you know, if, and here's the thing about like alcohol and drugs and everything like that is if you're going through something emotionally or mentally or whatever the case, when you start partaking and numbing that down, your mind's not processing what it needs to for all those things. And then you're just pushing
Yeah.
it off to the side and repressing it. And we all know where that leads.
And
So,
for those of you who are working with the addicted and mentally ill, like, that's why it sounds like we're not listening to you sometimes, because large chunks of our head are incapable of hearing you. Like, unless you say the word Vicodin, I'm not listening, bud. And that's not always true. But when someone is, has alcohol in their brain, has, copious amounts of marijuana on their brain, has, speed, whatever the fuck you put into your dome that wasn't there first is doing something new. And often it's skipping shit. Like we said, this is allowing you to cope. So it's helping you skip things that it thinks sucks. And each drug thinks different things sucks, and it causes you to forget different stuff altogether. I mean,
mhm.
blackouts are an extreme version of that. It goes well beyond like the metaphor where like if you're drinking, if you're in a blackout, you're not generating new memories. You're not remembering I think I heard Dr. Drew say this, and I tested it on a buddy one time, and he's all fucking, ah, blah, blah, blah. And I asked him the same question a bunch of times, and he gave me the exact same answer verbatim a bunch. I was like, oh shit, dude, he's blacked out. And then he kept asking me the same questions a bunch of times, and it's because he didn't remember that he just asked me. Before he blacked out, he knew he wanted to ask me, and then every time he saw me in the blackout, he remembered that part from before the blackout, and then asked me the question. And so for like 3 hours, I had to field the same question from this kid because he was blackout fucking drunk. Like I didn't have to, but I was trying to be nice. Make sure he didn't fucking fall into a ditch or something. But like,
Right.
all these drugs are gonna do a thing that like. So yes, if you're dealing with somebody who is on drugs, is dealing with drugs, or maybe even just has severe anxiety, severe depression, some kind of other sort of sensory related impact, they may not be receiving all the data you're throwing at them. And so that's tricky. Um, and I don't have great advice for that other than like you do your best, get eye contact in there wherever you can, but like make sure they hear you and understand you. And that eye contact is critical. And a lot of times addicts will avoid eye contact because they know that's the clincher. Um, but like, it's critical, and be patient. And if you have to repeat yourself, repeat yourself. But like, know that they're fucked up. And thank you for enduring this journey. And they owe you an ice cream sundae when we're done with this. But in the meantime, buckle up. But back to the crazy person's point of view here.
Nice. So no, I know what she said to me that day was, we need to get you away from alcohol long enough to where we can deal with uh, all of the issues that we need to go over. And it truly did make sense. In the time that she said that, I was so pissed. They kept saying, alcohol's the only issue, alcohol's the only issue. And I knew that wasn't true, but then she said, no. Look, for right now, yes, you're a crazy asshole when you drink.
Right.
So you need to stop drinking because you cause more problems that you can't solve. Then you go drink again because you're depressed about the new problems that you saw, or
Right.
you just created, and the old problems that you had, and now you're rolling into this shitstorm.
Yeah. And I
So she
mean,
said,
that's samsara. Like, if you've ever looked at like Hinduism, Buddhism, the cycle of life, death, and rebirth, that's what that's talking about. Is that like that's what being in hell is, and it's literally hell. Ask anyone who's been there. It's the closest thing you're gonna see. It is an absence of God. It is the darkness. It is gnashing of teeth. It is everything the Bible says it is, and everything every other religion says hell is. But it's also something you feel during this lifetime. And I'll tell you what, though, it's escapable. You can
it
get
is
out of hell.
right. And I think the biggest thing is uh, get yourself away from anything that is going to hinder your mind's way of um, navigating you through this journey to your next step. You don't want to cloud your judgment
Yeah. If you're
right
trying to
now.
drive this vehicle into a new life, let's not drive it drunk, shall we?
Right.
Because I mean, you
That's
are
the
sort
biggest thing.
of yeah. And then the shit. What was I liked what you said there. You said because there was a thing before it, and I'm missing it. You said what is it? Okay. So to that same thing, it's almost like if it's in arm's reach, you're gonna reach for it. And I think that's part of why distance was so important. Like when they're saying we need to get you away from alcohol, it's because if alcohol's within arm's reach, you're gonna fucking reach for it, because it's impulsive. Like it's beyond whether or not you like to do this or it's a good idea. It's just the thing you do. Just the same as like smokers. Like just watch people who used to smoke in their car and then watch them just pat the invisible lap in the passenger seat as they look for the pack of smokes that isn't there. Or like my grandpa after he quits, like, oh fuck yeah, they're not there. They're
Hmm.
those are there, and like, and it's the same as getting rid of your drug buddies or changing environment, but it all kind of boils down to like as strong as you want to be, your condition is one of weakness, unfortunately. And so like don't think you can beat that part of it. That's not the part you can beat, but you can outsmart the part of it by keeping that shit further than arm's reach. Keep it away from you, you know. And it may not be forever. In a lot of cases, a lot of stuff is forever. But I mean, at least right now, that's what needs to be done. Whatever crutch you lean on besides yourself to get through whatever you're going on, you need to figure out how to get those away from you. Because as alcohol was
Right.
your crutch, I have isolation as a crutch, where my agoraphobia is pretty comforting because I don't have to bump into any of you guys. I don't see anybody. I don't get pissed off by who's doing this or who's doing what. I don't pay attention to social media. I just live like a hermit. And then because of that, 36 with no kids, and my plants are all dying. And there's a spot in my living room that smells like pee, but I can't figure out where it's at. Might die alone. Shit happens, but like, fuck.
Well, you got me, buddy. So,
There we go. But I mean, yeah, that's what was. Where did that come from? What was the point of that? It was meant to come from somewhere nice, and then it got real weird.
I think that's most things that we do.
Mm, word. Yeah.
No, is stop the bleeding is a big thing. Um, get away from the substance. And that's what you were trying to punch home is,
Mm,
you
yeah.
got to get away from whatever is that crutch that you're on, and face this thing head on so you can move forward because that's really what it comes down to is that it's that simple.
Right.
It's either you continue being a shithead and you will lose more and more shit until you eventually end up dead. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna be honest there. That's where it ends.
Because like I really
Or
wish when this plague was over, I could go visit Jeremy at his apartment in Waterford, but I have to go visit him at his grave in Holly
right.
because that's what happened to my drug buddy. And I'm
Yeah,
sorry
Steve's
that's the way he went, but that's another path too. You can keep on keeping on, and I'll see you in Holly too. But I know you can get around that.
right. I mean, there's so many there's so many things that you can actually put your effort toward. And when you're in that spot, all you can think about is putting your effort toward,
Dude, get a fish
yeah,
tank, get an ant farm, get a. The plea for distraction may seem confusing along with the plea for aid, but like, I shit you not, a hobby does, bread and circuses is what, I won't go into the depth of the history of that quote, but I mean, it's sort of the idea of what's used to calm unrest. Bread and circuses. People need to be fed and kind of entertained a little bit. And part of one of the difficulties of suffering so long and then trying to not suffer anymore is one, you feel like you're a piece of shit, so you shouldn't be allowed to have fun. Because remember the time you fucked up that thing and now you're not allowed to have fun, so can't have fun. And then you're busy getting better, so you can't be dicking around having a good time because you have to put work into not being an asshole. But like I said, it's the same path. And so don't let it like if your path to recovery is an ant farm in Iowa, then fucking so be it. Or if it's a fish tank in Waterford, or a novel that you write in Clarkston, those things, like we said, they're all heading the same way. So like, the fear is justified, but it's the same as jumping out of an airplane. Like the second you do it, you're not afraid anymore. You're too busy having fun. You're too busy moving. You're too busy doing the thing you actually wanted to do. And so it's going to be scary all the way up until that point. And it's going to be difficult all the way up until that point. And then before you know it, you're having secret meetings about fucking businesses you're starting. And like, things are great. Like, it's a bit of a jump. But I mean, it's not
is
going to
it
happen
though?
until
I
you
mean,
start.
like Steve said at the beginning of this episode, what you're fighting is not real. You know, you're fighting a condition that is very real. But
It's made out of Bigfoot parts and ghost parts and
right,
alien parts. And
it's in your head. You're fighting your mind essentially.
I have had, and this is the craziest one, or well, I'll probably admit to crazier at some point. But so I got this awesome tattoo, and I'll show you, and it's fun. And I think I was on Vicodin at the time. Jeremy was for sure. The guy doing the tattoo was on Vicodin. We were in the back of an RV that didn't have any power at the back 40 of a horse farm. So I'm pretty sure it was sterile. Uh, but like it wasn't a great night. I mean, it was a great night. I got a tattoo. I was hanging out with some people. We're doing what we do. But ultimately, I was getting my arm cut open by like a gypsy in the back 40 of a horse farm. And like, that's kind of fucked up. And I got into a fight with my ghosts. And I don't know what it's the craziest thing, but I pulled over on the side of the road and I was just so upset with everything. And I spent an hour screaming into my rearview mirror, screaming at my fucking past, screaming at all the ghosts I couldn't outrun. And there was something to that, for me at least. Because it was also recognition like the things that were hurting me weren't real. And I was the only one who could see them. And just like my invisible friend, like, I can make him disappear.
The pain is real. I understand it, but the mind makes everything. I'm not gonna get like matrixy and shit, but your
We can
mind
get
is
there.
incredibly powerful.
We're for sure doing that episode one day.
Oh
On
yeah.
shrooms.
I mean, it can really mess with you, and especially when you're in that dark spot.
Yeah, don't read
You
any
know,
existential psychology right now because it'll fuck with you. Or like existential philosophy and shit. But like, yeah, no, it's invisible. It's not real. It feels real because it's using the same parts of your head that make everything else feel real. It's using the same parts of your head that make walls and tables feel real. So of course it feels real. And that's, I mean, ultimately that's why it's so hard to fight too, because you give it so much credit because it's so fucking terrifying. But ultimately, like, it's just a weird fart at a bruised chunk of your soft melon goopy brain. Like there's a little chunk of gray that's a little bit grayer than it should be, and that's why you do the things you do. And then, well, fuck, I'm not sick then. I just have a jacked up soft spot on my head. Oh, well, I guess that's all it is then. So, all right, well, what do I do with the soft spot bullshit? Okay, so I just gotta do this. Okay, all right. Like, you depower the thing that's coming after you after a minute too when you realize just how not real it is. It's just like, how many other thoughts a day do you have besides those shitty ones? Like, write that down for a minute. And then, like, why are you just paying attention to those 6 or 7 shitty ones? Like, super prominent shitty thoughts, of course.
oh man, have I come into contact with that recently? It's this, and you know what? There's a fine line, and I'm going to discuss it for a second since
Yeah.
we've already dealt with this. There's a fine line between needing to deal with emotions and fixating on negativity. Okay, they're not the same thing. Okay, they're not.
Right.
Dealing with emotions is taking, however many things you need to deal with, and you spend time working on those things. And you know what? The eventual thing you want to get to is acceptance of those things so you can move past them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, fixation is where you say, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks. And then as you're saying this shit sucks, then something else in your habit or something else in your life happens, and you're like, fuck me, like that sucks too. Like
Yeah. And then it's
everything
also like,
sucks.
well,
My
of course
life is
that
shit.
happened. Well, of course I lost my fucking job because I'm a fucking piece of shit. We talked about that last month. Well, of
Right.
course this is happening because I'm an asshole. Because remember, I lost my job and then I was a piece of shit. Like, you're building arguments against yourself like a shitty lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, like one of the quotes I like to tell my Buddhist friends because they're fun with poetry is I say you have two choices. You can either listen to the car alarm or the birds. Pick one. And
Birds.
so much of what you're dealing with is you're like fucking turn off the alarm. But you don't have the clicker and you can't turn it off. You're not going to go out there and flip the goddamn thing yourself or lift it like Arnold Schwarzenegger and I got it to stop now. None of that. So either you sit and go, fucking god damn it, until it turns off, or you go, oh, look, a robin. And it might be difficult. In fact, it's really goddamn difficult at times. But
Yeah.
what's the better move? What's going to bring joy to your life?
Oh, and that's the thing is trying to get away from whatever this is. There's so much work involved in it, and it's a hard journey. And I do wish him the best. And we're gonna stick with him, through this process because from day one when I met him, I'm not gonna go into the story. It's incredibly like it's strange, the way that we came into contact. And since that day, it's almost like we were put in the same path. So, we could work together on this. And then in the future, this will be something that happened before. And this is not what's going to define him in, the great things he's going to do in the future once he gets through this.
Right. Well, and that's the thing, too, is like, I think we've said this a few times, is that when you start marching towards your front line for whatever your fight is, you're going to start bumping into the other people who are running to the front line, too. And you naturally come across the others who are on your path, who are all on that parallel path, that best of humans, that just the unattainable goal. And then you all of a sudden realize that there's a whole fucking army headed that way, bud.
Mm-hmm.
So it's only lonely at this part until you meet up with the rest of the troops a little bit further forward. You got to do this part on
Right.
your own a little bit, but the platoon will be there waiting for you. And we got flags and banners and the whole fucking nine, man. There's plenty of good fights out there.
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
always true.
Just taking that initial step to to do whatever you need to do in order to get you right. I'm not going to say hey, this is the next step for you. I can tell you what I want,
Right.
what I would like to see, but I can't every person's going to be different. And I definitely encourage people, whatever way it takes to get you where you need to be.
Yeah.
Let's do it. I don't care what it is.
And don't kick yourself for being a fuck up and fucking up, especially if you think you're a fuck up. Because, like, if you think you're a fuck up, then fucking up is expected. So we're good. So don't worry about
right.
it. Like, you're going to stumble. You're going to fail. You're going to break ribs while you do this CPR. But you're going to live.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. You'll live. You'll live through it. And Lord knows, imagine this, Steve. If when you were going through your stuff, because you've had some brushes with death, let's just say you weren't here. And while I was going through my stuff, I ended it too. I think about that often and just take this one circumstance. I wouldn't be here. I'd have never been here for this gentleman.
Right. How many
You know,
suicides did we prevent by not killing ourselves? That's fucked up. Like, I already know about 4. And that's insane
right.
to me.
Yeah.
And that was one of my early goals because we had one of our kids killed himself. And that fucking flipped me out. And
Mm-hmm.
it's insane that just telling people about how I didn't kill myself is how they also didn't kill themselves. And we're not going to
Right.
save them all. We'll lose some. But we'll save more than not even fucking trying. So we've got 3 consecutive viewers or whatever. Like, that beats the shit out of nothing.
You're right.
Because we know this works.
One person survives, that's enough for me. I don't know, that's what it comes down to is that dark spot, making it out, and then seeing truly, the reason why you ended up making it through that whole shitty journey. Because you could really change someone's life later on with your story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's not 100% why you suffer, but if you want to put meaning to your suffering, Your survival of this suffering will qualify you to teach others how to survive this suffering. The
That's a good
same as
point.
firefighters are qualified to teach the next generation of firefighters. You know how
Yeah.
bad this sucks, and you can tell the next generation. So even if you don't have kids, you can tell someone else's kids and let them know, hey, this sucks. It's okay, though. I've been here. You can leave markers up and posters and make a clear path for the future. As long as you survive. But if you die, we lose that. We lose that continuity of training. We lose that continuity of capability. We lose all the things we put into you as a species. And we lose all the things we'll selfishly get from you as friends and family and loved ones and as a society. Like,
We
we just
also
lose it all.
lose more people because watching someone crumble and then eventually I'm gonna get morbid because I want to paint the correct picture here.
Mm.
Um, Watching someone struggle and let's just say that they don't make it through that struggle.
Yeah,
So many people
the
are in a dark spot themselves.
suicides
Then,
come in threes. Like,
yeah,
typically, if someone kills themselves, two people they know will kill themselves. And it's typically, it may not be like best friends, but like it could be coworker heard about it. You know, with social media, it's even more expansive now. But like typically, someone goes, "Oh yeah, that's an option," and they're fucking out. And like, but and like you said too, like surviving it also saves lives. Just the same as somebody leading by example and saying that, yeah, it's worth it killing yourself. Then you've led and told the other generation that suicide is an acceptable answer. And so we shouldn't be surprised to see kids killing themselves because that's the example we're setting. Or we can set the example that you grit your teeth and you suffer through this bullshit until it's over with. And then you move on and do the rest. That's the
true.
better example. That's the better way to lead. And we can't do it alone. There's only two people fucking watching. Three. So
Wait, we
we
have
need more
three?
people to survive this. We need everyone to survive it. But for sure, we need you to survive it so you can tell others how to. What are you
All
thinking,
right.
bud?
So, okay, and I don't want to make this too long because it's late, and I really do want to like get that message across. This is an important thing we're trying to put out there is I don't know. We'll be there while you're trying to find your way. We don't know what your way is or the way out, but we'll be there to help as best as we can. And we wish you the best in this endeavor. We're not going to let you fail. We didn't fail. You know, we're not going to let you fail either. And that's part of what this is about.
Yeah. And as Paul said, we can't issue any kind of confidence in what your future is. But we can issue confidence that you have a future as long as you seize it. Put that in arm's reach. We've talked about all the other shit. You got to get out of your arm's reach. Get the whatever you're reaching for. But that's the only thing you need in front of you. So I think we've said enough. I would hope it's enough to get you started. Because that's where we're at right now. Is you just need to start. And remarkably, that's how you start finishing. So, please do us a favor if you're one of our loyal fans. We love the hell out of you guys. We really appreciate all the sort of input we get, and this is fun to do. It's wild to do. It's a lot of things. We've talked in the past that we're not so great at marketing, so we could really use your help, especially in the share department, and especially because our videos are marked adults only. It's not because we're pornographic, it's just because we say cunt a lot, and that's a problem for some people. Um,
We're,
but in order for us to keep our vocabulary as spicy as we like it and our topics as wild as they are, um, YouTube's not going to share any of our shit. So please go ahead and share it with your friends. I know we've got long bits, short bits, whatever it is. You know, please help us out with that. That the word of mouth is the only way we're going to get out there, because uh, the algorithm ain't going to do it for us. I've had that discussion with some people, and it just ain't going to happen. So um, please do that. Spread the word. Blah, 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 blah. What was the other part? Oh, yeah. Our email, dfd.slm@deployedfromdetroit.com. You can send us comments. You can send us questions. If you would like to volunteer and help us get the podcast looking a little bit better, we could definitely use help with editing and getting these sort of live bits into something a little bit more user-friendly on a smaller scale. Uh, we don't have money because we're poor, so volunteer only, unfortunately. But hey, now. Uh, but hey, we love you. Keep it up. Um, you already know what you have to do. You just had to be reminded that you already have the strength to do it. So,
Mhm.
in the words of the great prophet, get her done. All right? All right, man. I love you, buddy. I'll catch you when I catch you. And for the rest of you, go do some warrior stuff, okay?
All right, see.
Where's my buttons?
There's come